The 96th Visit. Sans opened the door. He was still grinning, but the look in his eyes suggested that this was only because his mouth was incapable of doing anything else. That grin was there because it had to be, and it felt lost and all alone in the world. Frisk didn't look much better. His skin was pale, his hair more askew than usual, and strange tics fired off in his face and limbs as his body struggled to stay upright. The silence was broken by a long, luxurious growl from Frisk's gut. Sans glanced down, then back up. He said, "Want to go to Grillby's?" Frisk nodded. "Go on ahead. I'll catch up." Frisk's expression turned wary. "No tricks, kid. I'm pretty sure you've used up all my material." He started to close the door, and stopped so that only the light in one eye and a sliver of his grin was visible. "And I think you'll agree. No one likes repeat performances." The door closed. Frisk waited for a second, then carefully made his way downstairs. He wasn't sure how long he'd been awake at this point, but he felt very aware of each muscle and how much they wanted to turn to jelly. He stepped outside, circled around the side of the house, then took a deep breath and shoved both hands into a snowbank. He hissed air through his teeth and flashes of colored light went off in his vision. His left hand didn't look too bad, but the skin on his right had turned shiny and taut and sent needles of pain up his arm with every flex. He kept them in the snow until they went numb, then pulled them out, shook them off, and limped to Grillby's. The usual clientele was present, amidst the soft, smoky haze. The place smelled like hardwood and dog fur. The Royal Guard's card game continued apace, and by the state of the chips, Greater Dog and his indefatigable poker face appeared to be dominating. Doggo waved at the spot where Frisk had been a second ago. As he approached the counter, Grillby glanced up, his flickering match head glinting orange-red off his spectacles, and then quietly went back to polishing a glass with a clean rag. Due to the incendiary nature of its proprietor, everything in the tavern was magically fireproofed, though the jukebox had somehow managed to burn out anyway. The punk rock horse leaning against the juke gave Frisk a quiet nod. Frisk nodded back, and then looked at the open stools. On top of one was a strange lump, cunningly painted the same color as the wood. Frisk eyeballed it, and hopped on top of the other stool. Frisk groaned and pulled the whoopee cushion out from under him. The first stool top was innocent and bare. There were a few good-natured laughs from the other customers.
"Don't sweat it," said the bird sprawled out against the bar. "Grillb says he was watching the whole time, and he has no idea how Sansy pulls that off either."
Frisk kept his eyes forward as he heard the tavern door creak open. Sans's slippers shuffled across the hardwood. "No one panic. It's only me. What's up, Grillby, Dogamy, Doggeressa, Doggo, Greater Dog, Lesser Dog? Hey, LD, nice hand you've got going there. Have a bone on me. No, man, not the bone that's literally on me. I meant, ow, not the tibia. Here, this one. Good boy." Frisk heard muffled chewing. "Jimmy, you mind clearing out the corner? Me and this little guy need some quiet time." "Sure thing, Sans." The horse's imitation pleather jacket crinkled as he pushed off the jukebox. "I need some fresh air anyway." As Jimmy clip-clopped away, Sans drifted into sight like a squat, rotund moon and took the stool to Frisk's right. "What's up, kid?" Frisk dangled the whoopee cushion in front of him. "Oh, neat. Was wondering where I left that." He grabbed the cushion and stuffed it into his hoodie pocket. "How's about you take a seat right here?" He patted the stool to his right, nearest the jukebox, then gestured to Grillby. "Mind getting us a couple deluxe platters, man? I think we're gonna be a while." Grillby flashed a thumbs up and headed into the back as Frisk changed seats. Sans drummed out an uneven rhythm on the bar with his fingertips. "Let's wait for the grub before we talk," he said. "You look worn out. You seriously did all this in one shot?" Frisk nodded, and it took visible effort to lift his head again. "Somehow I think that even if I got an answer out of you, it wouldn't make sense." "Don't do that to yourself, kid. Someone your age needs their sleep." Grillby emerged from the kitchen with 2 plates piled high with burgers and fries. "Aha! Perfect timing." Rilby set down their plates and discreetly moved to the far end of the bar. Sans grabbed a ketchup bottle, flicked the lid off like a quarter, took a swig, then smacked the bottle back down just in time for the lid to land on the bottle top again. I never get tired of the food in this place. He bit into his burger, then looked to his right and saw that Frisk had already demolished half of his. Heh, looks like you're the same way. Frisk swallowed and took another bite. They ate in silence for a while, their food diminishing by degrees. Eventually all that was left of Sans's plate was a stray smattering of fries. Sans pushed them around for a bit and waited for the sound of Frisk's chewing to cease. He said, "All right." Frisk pushed his empty plate away and folded his hands on his lap. The atmosphere in this corner of the tavern grew solemn. At this point it's pretty clear that you're not knocking on that door just to hear my jokes. Though I bet some of them were hilarious. Did I get you on the phone with Papyrus? Frisk wearily held up 4 fingers. Priceless. But that's the thing. I'm no time traveler. Every time you pull that trick, his voice dropped an octave. Those resets. His voice lightened again. I don't get the privilege of remembering what happened. Memories can't survive. But with a little work... He produced the memo pad from his hoodie. Other things can. He slid the pad across the counter. Frisk hesitantly picked it up and flicked through it. The first several pages were covered with tally marks. I've got more, of course. Taking notes helps pass the time when I'm at my guard post. Usually I don't bother reading them after, because what's the point, right? The light in his eye sockets dimmed. It'll all be undone anyway. But, just for you, I did some quick skimming, and I can more or less guess why you're here. He swiveled his plate around. Frisk looked down at it, and the pad slipped out of his fingers. Sans had rearranged his fries to spell out one word. Azrael. Gotta admit, I didn't see that coming, Sans said cheerily. The Crown Prince of Monsters. Guess he's got something to do with that rascally flower running around. Same one whispering sweet nothings to my brother. That's funny. That's really funny. He scooped up several fries and bit them in half. And I know what you're thinking. It's not right. It's not fair. You've got a great big heart in that ribcage of yours. I bet you'd do anything to help him out. Something in the tone of Sans's voice made Frisk back away to the edge of his stool. But, speaking of unfair, I said I kept good records. Notes, sketches, amusing anecdotes. He flicked something else from his hoodie. Photographs. Frisk already looked wan, but he turned even paler when he saw that picture. All 7 of them were there. Sans, Papyrus, King Asgore, Toriel, Undine, Alphys, and Frisk himself. Papyrus was waving so frantically at the camera that his arm was a white and red blur. Toriel and Asgore both smiled wide, though Toriel's smile looked a little strained, and Asgore's a little desperate. Sans was giving Frisk bunny ears. Undine had Alphys in an amiable headlock and, in an inspired move, was giving Sans's bunny ears. The sky overhead was a faultless blue. The sun-drenched silhouette of Mount Ebott towered in the background. Nice, ain't it? Sans said casually. Looks like Undine and Alphys finally hooked up. Always thought they'd make a cute couple. I guess that lady is Asgore's ex. Sucks that they seem to be on the outs, but them's the breaks. Papyrus is just happy to be there as usual. And you appear to have fallen victim to the classic 2-tier ear, though you're taking it like a champ. Oh, and one other thing. Minor detail. Almost forgot to mention it, really. It looks like we all made it to the surface. Frisk reached for the photo and Sans snatched it away. That isn't yours. Frisk's hand flinched. For a moment, the light in Sans's eyes had died out completely. We were there. We were out. And now we're back where we started, trapped in the dark. What, saving the world wasn't good enough? You had to send us all back here because you couldn't get a perfect run? He shoved the picture back in his hoodie. Like smashing the cookie jar because you couldn't reach the last crumb. I bet he didn't even ask for your help. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that guilty look on your face right now. His gaze was unrelenting. I don't even want to know how many times you've put us all through this. Frisk slowly turned in his seat and stared at his empty plate. You know what, kid? I'm fine with it. I expect this. Our report showed a massive anomaly in the time-space continuum. Timelines jumping left and right, starting and stopping, until suddenly, everything ends. His grin widened, his eye sockets darkened. That's you, isn't it? But don't expect me to play along. And better yet, don't think you can just keep me trapped in my own bedroom until I give in. Otherwise, I might have to rethink that promise I made. Frisk said nothing. Sans waited a moment, then scraped his stool across the floor and stood up. I'm going home. Have fun with the next one. He turned away, stuck his hands in his pockets, took a deep breath. By the time he exhaled, his face was calm and jolly as ever. He started toward the exit. Please? Sans's foot froze in mid-step. The voice was so thin it was more remembered than heard. It awkwardly sidled past his hearing and lodged in his mind. Frisk's head was down, his fingers splayed on the countertop. His shoulders shook. The myriad of bruises on his hand glistened under the tavern's lights. Sans stood there long enough for several of the patrons to raise eyebrows, or approximations of eyebrows. Then he sighed heavily and slid back into his seat. Grilby, glass of soda, please? No ice. He rapped on the counter next to Frisk's head. Hey, look at me. Frisk turned by inches. The corners of his eyes were wet. I guess you're gonna keep going with or without my help. So... He drummed on his skull. Ugh, how do I explain this to someone who's still in short pants? Look, you're talking about the impossible here. Azrael's long dead. Once a monster's soul is gone, it's not ever coming back. All that's left is to scatter the dust, and we both know how that turned out. But if we're talking about the impossible, then there might be something I can do. Grilby set down the glass. The fizzy yellow cola inside bubbled and frothed as Sans pulled it close. Thanks, man. Give us some space. Grilby tapped the side of his spectacles and moved back to the other end of the bar. Okay. Sans slid the glass between himself and Frisk. The soda is time. Frisk looked at the glass, then to Sans, then back to the glass. His expression became slightly concerned. Just stay with me. See all these bubbles? These are moments in time. Events that happen, people you'll meet or don't meet, or maybe you want to meet again. The bubbles you see now are the things that are happening, but they don't stay where they are, right? They move, they disappear, they get replaced. See, right now this glass has a whole lot of bubbles in it, but it can also contain every single bubble that ever has or will exist. Do you understand like half of what I'm saying so far? Frisk's forehead was scrunched and a vein throbbed at his temple, but he motioned for Sans to keep going. Alright, let's keep the soda train rolling. Whenever you pull one of those minor resets, you give time a little nudge. He flicked the side of the glass and it fizzed. So new bubbles can show up, like how I'm sitting with you this time instead of all the others. But when you do a big one, the kind that pulls us all out of the sunlight and back down here, that's a little more intense. Suddenly, Sans pounded the counter hard enough to make the whole glass jump. Frisk flinched and every head in the tavern turned. Everything okay over there, Sans? Dogamy called. Yeah, man, just showing the kid here something cool. Don't mind me.
Give us some warning next time, Sansy, Doggeressa said. You almost gave poor Doggo a heart attack, and he owes us money.
Aha! That's a funny joke, Doggo said darkly. Greater Dog barked and rubbed his thumb and forefinger together. The glass now fizzed ferociously. New bubbles surged and burst. You see? Look at all these possibilities that just showed up. All that potential. Now here's the important part, kid. Out of every single bubble that could possibly show up in this glass, there's exactly one that might be able to help you out. Even then, it'll be hard to find. I can look for you. I know the shortcuts. But one timeline might not be enough. You get me? Frisk's face fell. Yeah, that's right. You've got to keep doing what you're doing, over and over again. Mixing up time, creating your ripples until the path is clear. I'll take the best notes I can, give you a call now and then to keep you updated, but this is on you. This might take 100 resets. It might take forever. And even then, there's no guarantee that we'll get what you want in the end. He stared at the glass. But as long as you can keep it up, I'll try to do the same. Should be a decent way to kill time. It's been a while since I've hit the books. Frisk stayed in his seat a while longer. Then he slid out and stood up. Leaving, huh? Guess that's a no? Sans got up too. Well, I did my best. Suddenly, Frisk threw his arms around Sans' waist and hugged him tight. Sans' eye sockets widened. He was a little too round for Frisk's hands to meet, but Frisk made an attempt anyway, burying his face in Sans' hoodie. Okay, wow, watch the ribs, I've only got 24 of them. Eventually, Frisk let go, leaving 2 dark, moist spots on Sans' hoodie where his eyes had been. Done? Alright. Sans winked. Knock 'em dead, kid. Frisk nodded and stepped around the bar. Sans sat back down and stared at the bubbling soda glass until, after an unusually long time, he heard the tavern door open and shut. Only then did he grab his memo pad, slip it in with the rest of the detritus in his pockets, and leave his seat. Alright, that's it from me. Put it on my tab like always, Grilby. Grilby let him know that his friend had taken care of it. What, he paid already? That was generous of him. Grilby corrected him. The young man hadn't paid for the meal. He'd paid Sans' tab. Sans stared. That was pretty impressive, Grilby continued, since Sans' tab was, at this point, probably greater than the net worth of half the underground. Not that he was complaining. Sans looked at the tavern door. Grilby remarked that he seemed nice. A little quiet, but a good kid. Yeah, I think so too. He stuck his hands in his pockets. And I'm pretty sure that's why he's gonna have a bad time. Bye, Grilby. He sauntered out of the tavern and into the snow. Hey, Jimmy, your spot's free. Sorry we took so long. Jimmy was nowhere to be found. Sans glanced up and down Snowdon's Road and didn't see a hint of that radiation green mane. What he did see were small footprints headed in the direction of Waterfall, evenly spaced at first, then growing off-kilter and unsteady. Then he saw the vaguely pumpkin-shaped indentation in the snow where Frisk had finally lost consciousness and face-planted into the ground. And finally, here were the hoofprints headed towards that indent and off in the opposite direction, where Jimmy had picked Frisk up and carried him to the snowed inn. Sans rubbed his chin. Guess that gives me a head start. As he walked down the path, he pulled out his cell phone and dialed. It barely rang for half a second before picking up. Hello, Sans. It's me, Papyrus. Hey, bro. Where are you at right now? In the woods, of course. Yeah, I figured. What are you up to out there? Besides looking for humans, I mean. At this moment, yoga. Cool. Anyway, I got a message from King Asgore. Long story short, I'm gonna be working extra hours for a while, so I won't be home as much. Just giving you a heads up. You're actually doing your job? Sans crossed his fingers. That's amazing! Sans uncrossed them. You're finally turning your life around, Sans. This is the first step of a bright and glorious future. Keep doing what you're doing and you might even be as great as me. You can even go back to dental school like you always wanted. Yeah, maybe. Do your best, Sans. That's all I could ask for. I'll try, Pap. Goodbye, Sans. See you around, bro. I'm hanging up now. I know you are. This is me, hanging up. This is me, waiting for it. You will hear a clicking sound. Looking forward to... Click. The phone went silent. Sans stared at it, then shook his head and pocketed it again. Brothers, he said to no one in particular, what are you gonna do? He'd reached the river running into Waterfall, where the water ran just warm enough to send up clouds of freezing fog that lay over the landscape like a veil. Sans peered into that milky air and couldn't see a thing. Well, better get started. His slippers crunched in the snow as he walked into the fog. Before long, the sound of his footsteps ceased. The wind picked up and stirred the mist just long enough to expose the landscape again, and Sans was nowhere to be found. Even his footprints had disappeared. Again,